So the Women's Health Clinic, we're not new. So although we're new to here, we've been in Leeds for probably about 6 years now. We're over at Water Lane. And our business model works in the way that we have a clinic within a clinic. So we have a base clinic and then we have satellite clinics. So we're CQC registered because we do all sorts of other aspects of women's health. Our service predominantly have always been nurse-led. So it started off with me in a room doing stuff, and then then I met somebody else who was doing stuff, and then I met somebody else, and then it sort of grew and evolved. And it's been quite a good fun journey. We are Care Quality Commission registered for the women's health aspects of what we do. So blood sampling, coil fitting, some of our other treatments, and I'll go through that. You don't have to be for some of the other things that we do. I'm going to get on my soapbox on a couple of these. So the general idea is we have nurses that are local to the area. So Jane, unfortunately, who does work from here, is actually doing the Manchester clinic today. Bless her. We didn't tie that very well. And then there's another lady called Delia. So her background is sexual health. My background is urology. We've got gynecology nurses, menopause specialists. So we've all got something. So if I'm with a patient and I'm thinking, oh, I'm not sure about that. That seems more sexual health. Ellen, just need to run this past you. Yeah, what about this, and that? This patient's contraception doesn't seem right, but that's not my bag. So it means we've got a good network, and obviously then we've got Joe on Fast Island these days as well. So predominant services, so laser vaginal rejuvenation, which Joe touched on, which is the newbie, so that's our product. We've got a menopause service. We've also got sexual health and general women's health, so in lots of different aspects. We also provide a lot of education, so face-to-face stuff here, businesses, online. We've also got an online women's health page that we do, so probably need to put some of your GAM care stuff on actually. So the idea is if somebody's got a speciality, they really enjoy it, if they want to talk about it, whether it be yoga, hypnotherapy, whatever, that's the go-to place, because when you pick up the Daily Mail's female, oh my God, everything's going to kill you. No, it's not. You need to have that because the opposite's going to... Yeah, so we want to have this comprehensive educational network. And it is just a few of us. We do get together, although we're all over the country, we do get together and have a networking. So networking involves education, also involves food for a second. And it also gives us a chance to reflect, because although the nurses work sort of in their lone areas, we are part of a team, so we do meet regularly, have monthly meetings online. Each nurse typically will have something they're really interested in, so it might be research, for example, so they will look at things like our pelvic floor plans that we run now. And that came from us looking at the evidence, somebody taking that as their baby, and we develop it, and then we get together and what do we like, what don't we like, what feedback are we getting, so they're part and parcel involved in the service. Next time we're going to do one that's a bit warmer, because that was February and it was freezing and it rained, but we had lots of walking, lots of just being together. Women are good when we get together. We might even invite Joe this year. It could be an honorary nurse. So Silvery Blue is the medical aesthetic side. So if anybody's been a patient of ours or knows somebody, they'll notice that Silvery Blue is on some of the documentation. So you can't have too much on one website. So Silvery Blue is on medical aesthetics arm, and we are going to be branching out into some more high-end beauty stuff. So medical aesthetics basically is stuff that can be done in a clinical environment. The problem with this country is we've deregulated a lot of it, so some people might find that they do Botox in a kitchen by somebody that's done a half-day course, or they'll be going in a prestigious clinic, somebody that's got 20 years pedigree, but unfortunately don't even start because you will not get home. We've got lots of things in the pipeline, so when we do our event on the 21st, we're going to be showing you some of them, and you're going to get to experience some of them. So the women's health services, so that was the baby, that's where we started from. So Nuvi is a laser vaginal rejuvenation treatment. Anybody had any laser treatment of any sort? Hair, tattoo? Nothing.
I've had laser removal for like hair.
Yeah. So all lasers connect to something with the aim of something else. Energy transfers from one place to another. It's a bit like when you drop a pebble in water. You get these ever decreasing circles and that energy. So when you were having your hair removal, it's connected with the pigment, then gone down to the follicle, damaged that, no more hair. This particular laser likes to work with water, and what happens is when it reacts with the water, it makes lots of little tiny breaks, and those stimuli go past that. So that's the inside and that's the outside. So the reason that people will come to us is for all of the things that Joe was talking about. So this isn't in the NHS, but it's not new. It's been around for about 30, 40 years. So we used this type of laser predominantly for skin resurfacing because it reacts with water. It's very, very, delicate treatment. Quite aggressive, but not too deep to cause problems of scarring. But the sort of patients that we will see are ladies who are suffering from stress incontinence, lack of sensation, menopause. I'm going to upset everybody with menopause. If I'm selling menopause as a project, it's not going to happen today, but it's good to know what happens. Childbirth, lack of loss of sensation, things feeling a bit, we've gone from this to being a bit like how it is externally. Confidence, maybe setting up new relationships, maybe just wanting to feel good. So it's estimated that at any given time, 85% of women will have some kind of symptoms. So vasomotor would be things like your hot flushes, your lack of sensation, dryness, discomfort, not feeling happy internally, externally, so on. And out of that, 25 to 50% of postmenopause women will have objective atrophic changes. Big words, I'm going to break it down into simple stuff. Not many of those women, and we've certainly seen that when we do surveys, are comfortable talking to the doctor. And this was pre-COVID. You can't speak to a doctor whether you can walk in with your head under here. Paracetamol. That sounds a bit mean, but getting that help. Women's health's not easy to get help with and get cohesive help. Some of the reasons for that are, unless you're somebody like Joe who's got an interest in that, when you do your medical training, you do your 5 years, then if you want to, unless you're an obs and gynae, do you want to do some more? If you want to do women's health another year, I'll pick it up. So there's a lot of disparity, and that's changing a lot. It really is. Louise Newsom's doing a course called 14 Fish, so that women are starting to, doctors are starting to see what's current, what's new, some doctors will tell you HRT is going to kill you, and others will give it you by the bucket load. But the problem is women aren't being heard because they're not feeling confident enough to go. And we know as women, if any of us have had kids and you've had a career, you go up, you have the kids, you go back up again. So you find the same happens in medicine. So you get ladies that surgical registrars, consultants, and they're sort of, it's not. I'm not coming back as a girl. It's overrated. So laser treatments are unregulated in the aesthetics industry. So before 2010, you had to have a CQC registration to be able to run a laser. So if I had this as an aesthetic clinic, a doctor would have to be named as it. And then the CQC thought, well, actually, the majority of stuff that's being done is hair removal, skin rejuvenation, tattoo removal. It's not really surgical, not cutting and burning stuff. So do you really need a specialist qualification? Probably not. Do we need to assess? No. So if somebody's doing eye surgery, then yes, it would need a doctor. But a bit of hair removal, not really. So they had this brilliant idea, well, let's deregulate it. And we said, because I'm quite high up in these conversations, like, well, are you mad? What are you thinking? Do you think that's a good idea? Because if there's no regulation, if something goes wrong, what happens? Who's going to fix it? Well, if we give people a guideline to say, this is what you should be doing, then that will be enough. Okay. And I'm sure around about 2010, 12, we're starting to see laser clinics popping up on High Street, some of them setting up in shopping precincts and whatever, and some people are doing it really well. It's only when it goes wrong that there's a problem. So if I do something wrong, or Joe does something wrong, we've got the Nurse and Midwifery Council, the GMC, to answer to. But if somebody who's just set up, doing it off their Facebook, doing people's dermablading, and it goes wrong, they just go, and they open up somewhere else. It's a bit of a worried idea, but it does happen. So with the laser, what we found when we registered for our registrable activities and coils and all of that is that we asked, they said to us, you have to do this with CQC, the laser. And we said, no, lasers have been deregulated. And they said, well, in theory, if we got a therapist, so let's say, come work with me, I'm going to teach you how to do this treatment. And you go, fine, you don't need to be registered because you're doing it under that radar. And you don't have to have any specialist skills. Like one of our gynecology friends said, lots of people do things to vaginas every night that they're really aren't qualified to do with things they're not qualified. It's only when they get stuck they come to us, which is fair, but that's not the point I was making. So they said to us, and this took, it's true though, that's going in my book, it's all going in my book. But after 3 years of, is it, it's up to you. No CQC, you're our regulator, is it? And they said, well, and they wrote a letter, in theory, because you're using your women's health qualifications, urology, gynae, sexual health, then yes it is. So if I train you to do that without women's health, it's not regulated, and if I do it with my qualification, pelvic floor, sexual health, all of, so no. So it is regulated when nurses do it, but other people will be doing it that aren't. So buyer beware. Menopause. Anybody having fun with menopause?
Yes.
It's Mother Nature's final blinking gift, because periods, pregnancy, childbirth. Thanks, I'm coming back as a dog next life.
Don't forget cats.
Yeah, Delia, my friend Delia's cat gets it good. So lots of things happen. Thankfully, menopause issues relating to the vagina do not happen overnight, unless you've been surgically forced into menopause, so breast cancer, hysterectomy, that sort of thing, when you're premenopausal. But gradually, the changes happen. So we get atrophy is as big a topic as pregnancy, childbirth, periods. We've all got our own story, but they all have some similarities and not. So what you find are these sort of things. So the flora and fauna is not so good. The blood supply is not so good. So symptoms people will come to will vary, but generally, square peg sometimes going round hole. Simple pictures, pre-menopause, post-menopause. Thanks, Mother Nature. Nice connected zigzag. This is why we get the wrinkles more than the boys, because the Velcro flattens out quicker, because estrogen and collagen are bedfellows. They work closely together. So as ours declines, so does things like our skin, our hair, ligaments, blood vessels, joints, all of those. And that's why HRT makes us not feel like. But particularly, your body system might be fine. You might no hot sweats, you're sleeping well, you're not ready to stab somebody because your progesterone's in your boobs, but your vagina might still be asking for a bit of help. Also, don't forget, a lot of women, when they get to menopause, have also had children, which is not as straightforward as we all like to think, unless you believe all the adverts on the telly. 2 puffs and obviously babies out there costing. So these sort of things will happen. So what happens also when we're looking at products, when we're looking at things like lubrication or vagina moisturisers, what you use on your hands and your face is not great for your space, because certain things happen. So this is our before menopause. Mother Nature wants the whole sperm and egg thing to go on, so we're going quite acidic on here. Mother Nature now says, well, you're not producing any eggs, so what do you need that vagina for? So you become more neutral. So if we went into a shop and we took a 20-year-old, whatever she's buying from Boots, they don't know that you're 20, 60, 90, 2 babies, 1 baby, menopause, got a bit of blood pressure, whatever, but so they'll sell it to you, but that person's going to find that sensation's quite different, so it might be stinging. That's what we do when we do a peel, we change the pH. So we're looking at products. Now, in your little bags, there is a product called Silk, which I'll come to in a bit, and that will help with things like vaginal moisturiser. Because the other thing, I'm sure we've all done it, 20 years ago, cream, come here kids. Now, because we're not holding on to the moisture as much as we used to, and that's why Boots and all of these companies are selling lots and lots and lots of products with lots of, to try and moisturise, because we know when skin's dehydrated we look great. Light reflective treatment molecules are great in makeup. So we're trying to make sure that when we use a product that it's not going to cause any of this irritation. So Silk's one of those products. There's lots of different ones out there, but we would talk about those individually in clinic, but Silk's one of the sort of ones that you can use for vaginal moisturiser as well as lubricant, but there are a couple of others. And this really is just another way of me kicking you literally, is that this is the clinical comparison. So we've had the nice picture. So this lady, premenopausal, great big blood vessels, lovely. Collagen, nicely neat. Nice zigzag line, great big estrogen receptors, they're like a sea sponge, all bouncy, lovely. There's poor lady, not quite the same. So these are atrophy, obviously research shows the extremes, but small blood vessels, symptoms, sensations not as good, tissue's quite dry, sex is painful, I can get my partner in and then it's like being sawn in half. That's the sort of thing this lady's going to say, because look how thin this is here. I would look at that tissue and it would look quite pale or very, very red, so very dehydrated. You know, she may find that she can have intercourse, but then afterwards she burns for days. And also, if you think the entrance to your vagina, if you had kids, your wee tube used to sit back here, lovely, have the kids, that top wall's a bit hammered. Now we've got even less support for that wee tube. So what we find is instead of it looking nice like cough, sneeze like a big donut, tight donut, we now start to get this shape, and then gradually what we find is we get that shape. This is big surface area compared to this, or even that. And that's why we have the risk of things like stress, urine infections, painful, difficult, uncomfortable, if not impossible intercourse. So yeah. So if somebody want to buy menopause, take it, put it in your little bag. No.
It's solved.
No.
Tell you what, if it was a male problem, it would be sorted.
Well, in lockdown, we got an alert saying about we're struggling with HRT, and I said, you know what, I bet there's no shortage of Viagra. And a friend of mine who got a pub in a not so nice area of Nottingham said, I could probably get it off one of my punters if I asked. Oh, unbelievable. So not only can you get Viagra dead easy, so can you just see if he's got an estrogen? It's just that difference. This list could go on forever. So when patients ring us up, we drill down quite quickly. You know, they may already be seeing doctors getting nowhere, particularly COVID. COVID hit a lot of us. Nobody's listening to me. What did the doctor say? Well, what did the person that examined you say? They didn't examine me. So how do they know that you need to do your pelvic floor? How do they know you've not got a prolapse? Stress incontinence, urge incontinence. Nobody feels romantic if they're worried that they smell like wee. You know, you don't know what's going on with your body. How can you expect your partner to understand why you're not, I don't want to have intercourse because it might hurt. I might not enjoy it. Or I'm just doing it for the sake. And it's just that, for us, this is the difference with nurses, is we're not looking just at this bit. We're looking at all of you. These horrible things, I mean, some of my ladies, I had a lady sobbing, absolutely breaking her heart, because hers is itching. And you can't, you know, you can do a little bit of this, but she's raw, absolutely raw. Pressure, bulging, burning, relationship partner issues. You know, one lady's been married 30 years, told him to go and have an affair. Why? That's not fair, because he wants to be intimate. I said it, like Joseph, he wants to be intimate. It's not about sex, it's about feeling that you feel good, you smell not all of that. That way we get rid of the horrible bits of it, it comes some good stuff. So the way that the laser works, you've seen that little lolly stick going around, is it causes micro traumas. So, so it reacts with the water, so it looks quite dark on there because there's virtually no water in a dried up wooden stick. We've got a bit more moisture in there. We use this on the face. If we did this on the face, you'd have marks for a good 7 to 10 days, but this is a good washing machine, it does a good job. So the aim is twofold, and it's not a quick fix. It's the body sees it as an injury, and whenever we're trying to stimulate new collagen, we have to send that message. So the laser doesn't do work, your body does. We can also, if we're looking at menopause, look at what else are you using. Do you need some estrogen in your system? Down there, do you need vaginal moisturiser? Do you need to have somebody look at the tissue surgically? All of that. This just shows how micro the injury is. So a lot of the stuff I'm going to talk about, because we're going to do a lot of stuff on skin, is causing injuries. 2 methods, either apply heat, so radio frequency, ultrasound. Has anybody ever done the crisp packet experiment where you shrink one, make it into a badge? Definitely more of a Leicester thing than a Leeds thing, because we've got Walker's crisps. So when you must have done it in the 80s, never made a badge, well, you've not lived.
Sandwiches. Just eating them.
Yeah, crisps, what flavour crisps are
The number one choice.
What you would do is you would get a crisp packet. This was in the 80s, before the foil ones. Apparently you can do it with tuck biscuits, I've been told. Put a little safety pin in it, put it on a baking tray in the oven, perfect temperature, and it will shrink to a miniature. So you go to school, you've got smoky bacon in our house. You can give you ready salted. So it would. So that analogy is we've made a physiological change, and that's then triggered something to happen. But if the heat was too hot or too low, we wouldn't get that change. We'd get nothing or burning. Nobody wants burnt skin. Not good sales pitch at all. And the other method is to fracture from the top down. So when we do that, we're protecting the outer layer of the skin. But if anybody's done it, shave your legs in the shower, go to bed, get up in the morning, because you kick-started something that's natural. If you didn't do this, you would be dead. It's just as we get older, our wound healing is not as good as it used to be. So instead of getting a new batch of skin every 28 days, 30 days, 40 days, and that's why we start to get grey bits here. These wrinkly, crinkly bits, it's no good fun. So this shows one of those tiny little dots on that stick, and over a period of time, holy smoke's got an injury, and it will reach out to the areas that are unaffected. Now when you get a scar, we've all got a scar somewhere, no doubt. This couldn't happen, so the body had to make its own, so it had to knit. And if you look at a scar, it doesn't move, it's pale, doesn't have the same sensation, looks a bit lumpy, different colour, particularly darker skins, you'll often get a scar in pink rather than the brown pigment, because the body had to close it. This is what happened here, so this is a very small injury. And over a period of time, weeks and months, is we go from being like this. So this is at the end of the programme of treatment. So the reason that 3 treatments are recommended is because of longevity. So one treatment, one injury, whether it's peels, needling, or all the other treatments we're talking about, will have an amount of time. But when you have new collagen, which takes about six weeks for those people, it's a bit like when you do a house. You do the footings first, then the bricks. When you get into the brick building bit, if you cause an injury again, you actually cause that to go on for longer. So what they've discovered, and this is where the 3 treatment protocol comes from, is that when you have 3 treatments, beyond that there's no more benefit, but 3 treatments will give you about a year to 18 months. So a lot of our ladies will come, have a programme, and then come back once a year. And obviously then we can also look at, do you need oestrogen supplements, do you need anything down here, see what else is going on. Everything we do follows this. So you have a 20-minute free consultation, so you can book that online. You can make a telephone call, we'll give you all the detail, you'll see it when you look on the Women's Health Clinic website. There's a nurse, we don't have salespeople, because we're not selling anything, we're talking to people. We get a lot of calls for things that aren't related to us, but sometimes people just need to vent. So you get 20 minutes, and it's really for us to ascertain what's going on with you. What sort of reason have you got in touch? What have you been doing? What's your health like? Because you don't want to go to a clinic and they go, this isn't for you. You've traced all the way over, and so on and so forth. So what we then do is we never book patients in, whether we're talking about the aesthetic stuff or what we're doing here, is we don't bring you in and say, right, come on, pants off, legs up, let's do that. We don't do that. We sit with you and we get a good medical history background. We get you to do a lot of paperwork about what's going on at home, in the bedroom, bathroom, menopause, work, exercise, all of those sort of things. And then we drill down as to why it is you're here. We always do a pelvic floor examination. Who's had a proper pelvic floor examination? Anybody ever been to like a physio?
I think I have, but I can't remember.
Yeah. And did you feel, what did you feel when you came out of that? Do you think, oh, been doing that right all along? Or...
I was given a machine.
Okay.
It's a bit like the kettle. I already had a machine, but they.
Yeah.
I went from the doctor's, and she gave me this machine which I never used because I had stuff going on and stress, and I didn't use this machine, and still haven't used it like 5 years later.
The protocol for most of these gadgets that do it, some of them are useful. We've got some kit here that quite interesting when you ever sit on it. It's the pelvic floor stimulation, but what might be suitable for you might be really counterproductive for you. So you might have had a forceps delivery, you might have had an anterior tear, so it might not be suitable, but they don't know who's buying it, and they're quite happy to sell them. And obviously if you've been recommended by a physio, then better. But when you're looking at, when you look at the protocol, you've got to put it in. So it typically looks something like this. That sort of shape with the little panels on the side.
The one I had has got a ring. In fact, I already had the same one on my own machine, but
and it's
called a probe, isn't it?
Probes, yeah.
Different.
So TENS machine for your
Yeah,
problem,
yeah.
Protocol, 30 minutes. Well, anybody that's ever had an under 5-year-old, even stood it to me today. Mum? What? You can't, so people go, it's not working. They don't bother. So, and actually there was a study done about 6 weeks ago, and it said 2,000 women were surveyed, and out of those, 68% of them had had no form of pelvic floor examination, which is that's a lot of women, 68% out of 2,000. And then when they looked at different aspects of women's health, gynae, so my background was urology as well as medical aesthetics, so we were dealing with a lot of continence issues, men and women, gynae, sexual health, all the people that do your smear tests. How confident are you to do a pelvic floor exam? How many percent do you think were? About 200? No. About 15. That had official training and felt confident enough to do it. And even with our nurses, we've put them all through courses as well. It's just, you just think, you know, if you look at the pelvic floor, front to back, across, you know, you're having a vaginal injury, you've got things going up this way, that way. So it's really important. And I always say to my patients, you know, we should always do them anyway, because gravity gets stronger when you get past 40, I'm sure it does. But also, it's really important. It's better to do something really badly than nothing well. And often we'll find once we get that, you know, that muscle memory, because if I do that, it's very similar but very different to what I'm doing there. And the same as if I do that, it's all working on my arms, and then if I do that, and it's the same thing, it's working it out, and the more you do it, the more you'll go, I want to do my pelvic floor, and it works, and it happens. And also, remember we looked at that picture of the blood vessels with this lady, they're still quite narrow here. So when it comes to getting things going when you're being intimate, if your blood vessels aren't firing so well, it's a bit like that motorbike that doesn't quite get into action. So it helps long term for you to have enjoyable intimacy. And in terms of the cost of that, everything we do, we take a deposit for any consultations. So I'm going to talk about some of the treatments as well. And then if you come along and you have a chat and we think, or you don't, or you think, you know, that's pelvic floor is brilliant, I'm going to go, great. Then we would keep that because you've had 45 minutes with a nurse. But then if you decide to have the treatment, you can actually have it on the day. So you're not going backwards and forwards. So it's quite a short procedure. Some people will pay straight up for the programme, other people will pay first one the first time you come and then top up in the middle. And we've got a nice little discount, which you'll get all sent to you. I'm not going to play this video because Lindsay, you can have a look on our TVs this morning. So Lindsay is our patient. Phil and Holly called it a vagina facelift. We haven't got a face in a vagina. But Lindsay was one of our sort of early patients, a lady that's, I'm not going to make you watch it for 6 minutes, but she's quite brave, 5 children, stress incontinence, lack of sensation, lost a relationship because we're quite glad she got rid of him in the end. She's just about to have baby number 6 actually with her new partner, but she talks really candidly about the procedure. I think a little bit too candidly on a couple of occasions, but Phil sort of pulls it in again.
I did watch that actually.
Oh yeah?
I did watch, after I got the link to come here. I watched it.
And she's lovely. We wheel her out every now and then. She comes to the odd event. But like I say, she's now met a really, really nice man. And she's on baby number 6. It should be due any time now. Well, I'm going to play this one. So Sarah is a lady who came to us in the very early days, so it's like 8, 9 years ago now, with atrophy. And there wasn't a lot of research about atrophy. And hers was a surgically enforced one. So hopefully this will work. See that one anyway.
I decided to have a new baby after I had cancer treatment, and a forced menopause made my condition just unbearable. The symptoms caused through the chemotherapy after the estrogen cancer kill off any estrogen in the body to help prevent the cancer coming back. And that means that you not only go through a menopause, but you go through it at a very fast rate, and it's incredibly intense. That leaves you being very vaginally dry. It leads to lots of urine infections, and it, for me, made sex and penetration absolutely impossible because the pain was just horrific. The results were absolutely amazing. They were just astounding. There's lots of benefits to the clinic being nurse-led, and that is that they understand your bodies, they understand what you're going through, and it just makes the whole experience much more pleasant. What I can say to women is if you've had a menopause or your menopausal symptoms are causing you vaginal issues, it is absolutely worth having done. I mean, I cannot hail it enough. For me, it was an absolute miracle.
Sarah's become a great advocate for a lot of our post-breast cancer patients, actually. She's written a blog. It's quite brave because, you know, whenever you do talk about something like that, you get shot down in flames. We did a Daily Mail article about why I set the business up, so my issues wasn't her fault, it was her brother's fault. Baby number 2 caused a lot of problems. Caused a lot of problems physically, mentally, emotionally. 3 years of pants off, legs up for this doctor, that one, the other. Oh, it's bowel surgery, oh, it's gynae, it's urology. And in the end, I just lost the plot. I was really, really down, really at my wit's end. My marriage was over now, thankfully. But I finally got put in front of somebody that took the time to listen, that did the examination. Where does it hurt? What does it feel like? When does that happen? And in the end, she got as frustrated as me. It was a physio. Been sent to a psychosexual counsellor. Well, I don't know about you, but I don't think I've ever had any scar tissue taught into behaving after having a baby. But it was 3 years of that, and I'm a nurse. I know what I'm talking about. And I knew some of these people, which made it even worse. And then eventually, she actually got me put under an anaesthetic for 7 minutes. She got all 3 doctors in, and she explained that it was, this is what she said, so basically, it's that and that needs to happen. And she said, I said, how long was I under? She went, 7 minutes. I went, oh, right. She went, yeah, it was 2 minutes of me going, you see what she's trying to tell you? It's that. Oh, right. She said, the next 5 minutes of them arguing about who owned the problem. I had to remind them that it was you that owned that problem. And one of the doctors went, well, I'll fix it then. But I can get treated like that, and it really, really riled me. When I had the opportunity to set this business up, I mean, I never imagined we'd end up with 11 clinics and 13 nurses. But that time to really listen to what's going on with somebody and not just put them off. We don't always get to see people that have had babies or a female in our clinics, you know, and all of our consultants are absolutely wonderful. And sometimes they just don't get it. They don't get why you feel so low. You know, and little things, you know, let's buy all these expensive gadgets, you know. If you're getting, you know, you're squeezing and you're not getting a lot of feedback, because there's not many nerve endings in a vagina. That's why sex is a different ball game for girls. Because if we had more nerve endings, we wouldn't be able to do it. There wouldn't be any humans because it would be really painful. But some of these gadgets, so you get ones that've got like the little TENS machines that we were just talking about. So they have little probes on here. Everybody remember the slender tone back in the day? Nobody got a six pack from that, but they did when they did out. But, you know, they can cost anything up to £200, £200, pants that do it all sorts. And this little gadget's about £20. And if you're squeezing and you don't feel like you're doing anything, so, you know, if I went to the gym and was just, you know, people would look at me. But if you do a bit of weight, you've got a bit of resistance. So it's the same with this little gadget. It's just an ergonomic one. You pop it in, it costs about 10 to 15 quid. And when you squeeze, you see it move. So it just gives you that bit of, you know, you can wash those and reuse it. Yeah, it's clean. It's not been used. It's a demo only.
So does that actually do anything, or does it just see whether or not you're doing it?
It's an educator, yeah.
Right.
So like I say, 10 to 15 pounds, you just wash them and reuse them.
You can get all the apps now on your phone where you see.
Yeah, a bit soul destroy. It's like things like the weights. If anybody's ever put those in, you put them in and the balls roll down the thing, you know. Because they're designed to come out, and it's that one muscle that's done the work. So menopause, we've touched on that. We've sold menopause really well. So it's around about mid-50s. Lots and lots of different symptoms, and I'm sure if we all went round the room, I'm not going to put anybody on the spot, but all, you know, what you may have, other people may not, and so on and so forth. Yeah, the weight gain is the real absolute sign. The more you exercise, the less it comes up. You know, you're eating dust because your body's trying to make estrogen. Dry skin, joint stiffness, night sweats. My perimenopause is, I say words that I think I've said and come out wrong. Could I have a cup of tea with skimmed milk? And he said, what sort of milk? Skimmed. He went, you just said sexy. I've never been back. I've never been back to the coffee shop. I'd rather wait till I get on the train. Look at that lovely roundabout. I meant rainbow. Not even close sometimes. But it's those things. And we laugh, don't we? And another time, people look at you like, I've not had it so far, so I can't be too bad. But, you know, some of these are pain in the backside and others are really debilitating. you know, we've got a menopause service, there's links on there, so we, you know, it's a private service and we usually get people coming to us because they've had enough or they're getting nowhere. Blood tests aren't done generally on the NHS because we don't need to, because majority of us, that's going up, that's going down, that symptom needs that treatment, it's just when it's not. So it's a service that we've got on there. You've got your booklets to have a look through, so I'm not going to bore you to death. But there's more than one way to skin a cat. So it's not just HRT, other things, so supplements and things like that. And we can also work with GPs. And we've got different packages for that. HRT, I'm not going to ask if anybody's on it, but there's different versions of it. So tablet versions, so some of them are safer at certain times of life than others. Patches, we can use things like, a lot more people are getting testosterone. Anybody else here come across testosterone?
I'm trying to get it, but it's being blocked.
This is where we come in.
Because it's free, aren't you?
Through,
Estrogen, progesterone and testosterone.
well, until recently, you had to have a prescription for estrogen and a prescription for progesterone.
Yeah.
Now, thankfully, all parties parliamentary group of women's health. How many years do you think that committee's been going?
20.
4.
4 years.
4 years. I'm on the committee. We went to go to our meeting, and next door to us, caravanning committee, all parties parliamentary caravanning committee, 23rd conference. We've still got seatbelts that do not fit boobs or babies. Crash test dummies are middle-aged, stocky men. We're not middle-aged, stocky. Don't even start. I'll be here all day. Sarah knows where I'm going.
I'll be there.
I've got plenty of testosterone for the lot.
You will be if you take testosterone.
Testosterone is so important. How many people have had, you don't have to say if you're not, how many people have had Botox? Did you have it for migraine?
I had it for aesthetic first.
You had Botox off licence. Testosterone, would you like that off licence? Yes, please.
I'd like it on license.
Well, this is the thing, it's not on licence for women, but you can, and doctors are like, oh, God,
To get off free.
this is it. Smallest amount, if you look at the men's blood, our bloods are like that. If you do things like, you know, gentle weight training, you will boost your own and it will make you feel good. Great for libido, great for clarified thinking, great for all sorts of things. You get people that are like, oh, just, and then, you know, the bats around like Zebedee, tiny amount. And if lack of sensation is an issue, if you get the testosterone gel, occasionally you can rub that in the clitoral area. Works really well. Getting it, it's like hen's teeth. Because so many people are so scared, but then when you look at that person that you're asking for it for, what level of education have they got? So some of the more educated people, so it's made for men, just a tiny little dot. But, you know, and this is where we can sort of say, look, we've suggested that, and some of the doctors we email, they go, oh, I never thought of doing that.
Is it testosterone not signed off by NICE for women though?
It is and it isn't. It's going to be changing very soon. A lot of the medicine we do at the minute is defensive, really defensive. People don't like doing things to people in case they go. So people that have had breast cancer, so Sarah, estrogen positive breast cancer, so she's been given medication to remove any trace because that cancer will probably come back. But for some ladies, if I say to you, I'm going to remove your breasts and get rid of your cancer, I'm not going to try again, you swine. But you can never ever have intimacy with your husband again, but you're probably going to live for another 30 years. Or I'm going to get rid of your breast cancer, I'm going to give you chemo and radio. I will give you estrogen, but on the caveat that you know that it's 10% risk every year of you that coming back. However, rather than coming every year, can you come twice a year for your mammograms? Yeah, it's starting, the balance is shifting. I've got a couple of patients who are like, I'm just not doing that because it just ruins my life. And it's having that knowledge to be able to have that confidence to make a decision for yourself without the doctors being scared they're going to get sued, and with them having that knowledge as well. We've got different packages, but we do, in occasion, we do blood tests because these are sort of, so vitamin D, everybody thinks it's a vitamin, it's actually a hormone. So it's a hormone that works with a lot of our other organs as well. So, you know, this is why we need the sun, and obviously darker skin tones don't absorb the sun as well, but also you've got more protection from it. But then on the other hand, you have better skin than as white people because we can't absorb it, so we end up getting wrinkly because of the collagen getting damaged. So, of course, but we're looking basically on, these are the precursors. So what testosterone have you got in your body? And just a tiny little increase will help.
Or nil, as my doctor said, well, you
Nil.
weren't having it.
Oh,
And that was it.
they've not done any bloods or anything.
They've done bloods, but she said, oh, well, there's no point me testing you for that, 'cause you weren't having it.
God, tell you what, she got next
when
week's
it's-
lottery numbers as
when it's-
well. That's amazing.
When the same blood test is going to use, the same bit of blood she's used, it's going to give you the test.
Blood's £60 for the basic. If you're looking at these are the precursors, because a lot of our hormones are made the adrenal glands, so on top of the kidneys. So these are, you know, are you firing off eggs? Are you able to fire off eggs? Have you got any left, basically? Your estrogen and progesterone. This is one that protects your womb, and then these are the precursors to some of those. So we do look at those sometimes. But generally, estrogen and testosterone, £59 a test. But we don't do blood tests unless, because if we find something that's an anomaly, we need to know what to do with it. I'm not going to do too much of the gynecology because, well, Joe did it, basically. And then silvery blue, I'm not going to do these to death, especially if you're going to come to the event on the 21st, because we're showing some of these treatments. So the medical aesthetic side, skin, 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 all the way through. Am I teaching anybody to suck eggs with this? Do anybody got any background in aesthetics or skin?
To some extent, but you are the specialist.
I don't want to send you all to sleep. I want to keep you excited. So basically, the skin's like a great big sandwich. So you've got the epidermis, dermis, and the subcutaneous, so fat layer. So if you look at the top of your arm and underneath, a bit different. If you look at your palms and your feet, different again. But you know, they've all got the same functionality. So the epidermis is the outer part, and that's split again down into 5 layers, all with a different function. So I'm going to show you a picture that makes it a bit easier. It's connected, like we saw before, with the zigzag. So this is where the pigmentation is. So if you've got a dark skin, you'll have a higher level of that. But also, you know, if you've got a paler skin, then you won't. And the reason we have that layer is to protect this next layer. And the next layer is where your good stuff is, your collagen, your nerve endings, blood vessels, your elastin, right, to stop it from drying. Skin's there to protect us. So if anybody does pub quizzes, biggest organ in the body, skin. Not the liver, unless you're an alcoholic, then maybe it's different. But this, we don't want any damage to come here because this is where the wear and tear is going to show on the surface. So the 5 layers at the top, if I go on holiday, well not me, because I don't tan, but if somebody goes on holiday, look at my lovely tan, you're like a roast chicken really, because what happened is the UV damage came down here and your body went, that's hot and it's dangerous, I don't want it to go here, so it puts the shutters up. So that's why we get a tan. And of course when you're not on holiday, it's not hot and it's not raining like it always is everywhere, then that breaks down. So these cells are constantly turning over and each one of those layers speaks. And then the fat layer, we've all got one of them, we don't talk about fat. It's there to keep us warm, some of us more than others in some places. And it's there to protect us, regulate, gives us sensation, so that's something that's quite unique with humans. And there's hot and cold, so when we're looking at skin, are there any problems? So diabetics, everybody got any diabetics in the family, we're obsessed with your feet. Well, I know that you can still feel them, because that always helps. This picture, I use this in clinic a lot, so this is the dermal epidermal junction, so this layer is where the pigment cells are. But you can see these are slightly different shapes and sizes, and then each line here communicates differently. It goes from shouting, it's like a building site, change that, do that job, whatever. And it slows down quite a lot as we get older. And that's why 28 days becomes 30 odd days. And also when we're doing treatments, we want to protect this epidermis as much as possible, because if you cut yourself, then there's a risk. That's why we bleed and so on and so forth. And then we're looking here, this is the depth of things like hair and follicles and so on. And that's a bit of a clinical picture. So there's your little zigzags. And that's normal healthy skin, and we want that, but it doesn't happen that way. So as it ages, it's giving up the ghost a little bit. So collagen's become a bit disordered. That zigzag's not there. So it's a bit like the Velcro flattening, and that's why you get the wrinkles. But also, if you look at a picture of yourself 10 years ago, if you had a facelift today, you wouldn't look like you did when you were 20, because your bones are this age. So what happens is our jawline comes forward, eye sockets get bigger. So there's lots of different treatments. We're going to cover a lot of that when we go through on the 23rd. So needling, literally puncturing the surface. making small injuries. CO2 resurfacing. So this is what we use. Actually, so this is what we use in with the new bin. So that basically goes in like that.
Why are they always cold?
I was never cold, I was always warm. That's one of the things, yeah. We're old enough to remember those speculums. So yeah, so you'll fill that new bin. So there's not much going on there. And then we use the open handset when we do the external side. So you can see it's not like a smear. Everybody's just gone back to it. And then we use that as sort of an open handset on the external area. But when we do the facial area, we've got another handset that just sits on the surface. It's like, you know those things for the dogs, you know, the collars, it looks a bit like that. So you put it on the skin so it's not as fierce on the skin. Then we've got chemical peels, terrible season to do peels because of the risk of sun damage. So again, the aim with peels is to increase that cell turnover. So sometimes it's to break things down, other times it's to sort of stimulate those layers of that sandwich and speak to each other. This I'm going to do quite a lot of on the 21st because this is one of our new treatments. So we have got a machine which is called the high fem for the pelvic floor. So you actually sit on it a little bit, but it's much better than the Kegel.
Is that chair thing? I've heard about the
If you
chair.
Joe's face when we put him on it. Because it works all of the muscles. It's quite a new technology. It's really exciting. It's really good for tightening face, body. Get rid of fat as well. The brilliant thing with HIFU is it causes the fractures under the surface, nothing on the top. So it's not the nicest thing. It's a bit prickly, but no downtime and much less risk for all sorts of pigmented skin. Tattoo removal. So these are the things we're going to be doing here. Plenty. Skin boosters. We're liking those as well. How are we doing this one? We're doing all right. You all right then? Do you need to have a little leg stretch or are you all right?
Keep going.
Sure? Can you anything done with running dog?
You've got half a spot.
Right. We'll cram it. It's all in the booklet. And like I said, we're going to do a lot more of this on the event. So literally, when we talked about mechanical damage or something that applies heat, so this is your mechanical. So this is top down. Maybe can you just grab the needle and pen for me, please? Yeah. Make sure to take it home. Need it this weekend.
Do you need all of the little bits as well?
No, just that battery that's on charge. So I'm going to hand the pen around, but don't put your hand on top of it because it's needles. Need the pen.
There you go. I'll get the
That's a battery.
I'll get the
So yeah, so there's lots of different ways to do it. And again, this wasn't regulated in a lot of the meetings that happened in the last few years. So Health Education England basically said that certain people should be doing certain things and other people should have a licence for them. And again, not regulated. So you can go to a clinic where somebody's done a course online. Somebody's been doing it for 20 years, but there's no way for you to check. So have a feel of that. That's the pen. It's not going to break. It's really quite robust. And what happens is, I'm going to pass it around. So there's more than one way with needling. So you can use, everybody's had donor roller? Yeah? So donor roller is just a roller with a set amount of needles with a set. Every time, oh my god, it's not a lightsaber. We use a pen in our clinic because nurses, therapists are allowed to do certain levels and nurses are supposed to be allowed to do deep, because when it comes to cooking, none of us put the oven on full. So you don't turn the oven on full, put your bread dough in, you know, black on the outside, soggy in the middle, and it's the same here, less is more sometimes. So remember we looked at the skin with those layers, this one's communicating very differently to here, so when we're stimulating at the different depths, we're getting a different outcome. So set it at normal. So you'll see, if you pass it around, so you can just turn it around. Don't put your finger on top, because otherwise you will get a finger prick. See the little needles come up? And then back down. Yeah. So they come in little sterile cartridges. And we can do them in different speeds. So basically, it's a bit like having a facial, but it causes micro injuries, which again, the body sees as a collagen producing way. It's not unpleasant. Lots of different reasons we would do them.
think so, I don't know. That's that one, have you got your own? Mixture show.
There were about 6 on.
Oh, I've got one here.
Awesome.
See you next time.
Yeah, thank you.
You got your got your charger?
Yes, thank you everybody.
Thank
Bye.
Bye. So this is a bit more of, you know, what sort of thing skin looks, you know, generally fit and healthy, good colour, good pigmentation, and good plumping. And this shows the different layers, the levels that we can go to with the needle. So that pen can go as almost as deep as fat. So when you make a micro channel, so if I had a jar of pebbles here and I put some like a vase, poured some sand in, it wouldn't all go down to the bottom straight away. But 3 or 4 days down, give it a wiggle. You can see it goes up and down on that blue bit. See the needles moving? So when we're doing our skincare, a lot of it sits here, and the molecules of the skincare will make their way through. But with needling, what happens is you make this micro channel, and then when you put the vitamins and the minerals that skin needs, it could be acne, it could be pigmentation, it could be dryness, scars, enlarged pores, and it gives this is like an injection when, you know, Paul, remember COVID, it hurt for a bit, it doesn't hurt as much as that. But that injection site shut down in about 10-15 minutes, and what we're trying to do is optimise that. So when we do it, we apply serum, because if I did that on your face, it would be cracking. And you can see here, these are the little micro channels. And this is before, so it's called collagen induction therapy, is the big long technical term, but you can see that, you know, this is the collagen over 6 months, so an estimated 400% increase in collagen. And it's not a quick fix. You don't go home and your husband goes, "Oh my God, you look beautiful." You just, people will say things like, "Your skin's really nice," or "You look refreshed." When people say you look well, I always think that's trying to tell me I look fat. There's lots of reasons we would do it, and again, this is where the telephone call with the nurse, the consultation face to face, so we never do anything until we've seen you. And this just shows a patient that we done, so you can see little tiny blobby bits. On our website there's loads of videos of people, don't look so worried.
Just that bottom picture looks like a face, it looks really soft.
Well, if you have bad punchy, it's going to be, and then we clean that off afterwards anyway, so we apply the serum. So we've got some, that's one of Molly's jobs now, she's finished her A-levels, is to publish some of the videos, what we've done.
We're doing the CO2 laser one, that'll be coming out next month.
Yeah,
So learn more about it.
and these are just some of the befores and afters, so it's just that luminosity.
Do you do any hair transplantation?
You can do it, it depends, with anything with hair, because you can use PRP, which I'm going to talk about in a sec. You can use that, it depends on what the cause, so with women, the cause is usually hormonal, dietary.
I was thinking.
Yeah, but also we can, if I did your bloods today, so there's one component of iron called ferritin, and ferritin is part of the sort of like the hemoglobin, so the oxygen carrier. So if I did your bloods today and your ferritin was normal, what that means is your blood supply to your body is normal, around about 15. But ferritin for hair growth needs to be about 90-95. So usually we find increasing iron, spinach. Increasing iron's one thing, but in vitamin C, so that you can release that. So that will help. Hormonal balancing, so you know, good quality food, drink, and so on. But sometimes when we do the needling on the head, we can apply certain serums that will help a little bit. We'll never fix it, but it will certainly help to nourish those follicles. And we'll often do it with men when they've had things like the follicular transplants to make sure they get them. It's like putting baby bile on your tomatoes. But yeah, we have to get to the root cause of it. Because if you came in with a broken hip and I gave you a painkiller, pain will go, but your broken hip's not fixed, so we've got to go in there. But it's interesting to certainly see things like anti-inflammatory, so turmeric, a lot of turmeric in diet, brilliant for.
What if you eat turmeric?
Every day I use.
If you
Because
eat
when I get
turmeric,
curry, I use the turmeric.
you've got to also have the same amount of turmeric and black pepper, otherwise you can't absorb the turmeric
Yeah.
into your body.
It's the same with vitamin C and iron. No, it's
Brown black pepper.
Yeah. A friend of mine years ago, she.
With the milk. Black pepper. But not same.
Same amount.
All same.
I don't really put black pepper in a curry, do you?
No.
There you
They
go.
would-
We've got
it
cooking,
wouldn't
we've got
taste-
recipes
It
galore.
wouldn't taste right, would it?
Put black pepper in.
What
Oh,
about
yeah. I don't like
Does
that.
it have to be
No,
black?
it's got to be black pepper.
So when you eat strawberry, you're supposed to put white pepper and
Strawberries and white pepper.
try. You'll see
Get
the
the
difference.
strawberries out, Meg. We're
You'll
going to have another
you'll
round.
see the difference in flavor. Honestly,
Really?
it sounds weird, but just try it.
There you go.
You just put a bit of white pepper on strawberry and eat it. You see how juicy and the flavor is just
I
buzzing.
feel like I've let you down with my strawberries now.
I'm not coming to the next meeting if you don't have white pepper and strawberry.
Very nice.
I'll bring the pepper.
Good. That sounds fair. So this is a young lady that I dealt with needling. This scar's quite deep. We had to do a bit of other work underneath, but she wouldn't leave the house. She'd gone on an implant and she'd got acne from head to toe, so they took her straight off it. But she had 2 children and wouldn't, at home, gave birth to them. She never went out anywhere with them. Eventually, when we got to this last one, and you can see it looks pink and angry, that's new collagen, that's new stuff. So if you've ever had stretch marks after babies, they look angry and then they go white. That's collagen trying to work. And eventually, on the last one, we got her to the clinic. After hours, the clinic was closing at 6 o'clock. She came out there, she was a wreck. And we did the last treatment with a doctor friend of mine. You know, things like acne, they can be quite debilitating and they're quite quick. Great on necks. A lot of things we have to be careful with thyroids and things, with things like heat. And there's some offers in there. And then PRP, we sort of touched on that. We haven't got it called PRP on our website because Google doesn't like PRP, because the FDA don't like PRP, even though it's a treatment that's been going on for years. So basically, when you bleed, you get the yellow sticky stuff. Platelets, plasma, it's got all the growth factors for an injury. So it will be whatever you want. If I inject it into an arthritic knee, it will help stimulate the bone growth. If I put it into a sore thumb, then it will help calm the inflammation down. So this is what we release when we're injured. What we do is has anybody come across a vampire or Dracula facelift?
I've heard of it.
Yeah, it's just a trademark. So if I injure you, you're going to release those. What we're doing here is we're safely taking the platelets out. So taking your blood, spinning it out in a very specialised bottle, and then putting it back. So we've got some great videos coming up, haven't we? We've got Nina's,
One going up on Instagram.
we've got hands, neck.
And all the
I have it on mine. I love it. Absolutely brilliant. We've got some really good. I might put them in here actually. Some used it a lot for wounds. It's brilliant for wounds. So if a wound's not healing, we tend to break it down and try and start again. And what happens is the platelets will become whatever they need to be. So they'll stimulate vascular growth, so blood vessels, nerve endings, skin. And really good. You can use it with boosters in there, so that you can use it a bit like a filler, but without the risks of a filler. So you can sort of get fine lines on the lips. You can actually get really close to the eyes, which got one of our patients got a couple of black eyes, bless her, because there was about quite a big. It's quite aggressive, but it fills that area naturally. So it's the yellow sticky stuff. And it's got lots and lots and lots of functions. Without platelets, we wouldn't be here. And this just shows you when we spin it out, the old stuff that we're not using goes, if only it looked like that. It's such a teeny tiny amount. And what we used to do years ago was put a needle in there, take the lid off there, put the needle in, pull it out really carefully. And if you got one blob of that, you have to chuck the whole lot. And this is where the expense comes with this treatment, is not the taking it out and putting it back in, but we use specialist bottles that actually have a gel here. So what we can do, so you've got platelet poor, so it's not as potent and platelet rich, but what we can do now with these closed systems, no risk of us getting a Sharps injury, but also there's no risk of contamination. So it means it's a lot more efficient than it used to be. And we can use it for lots and lots of different things. And here's Ellen, one of our nurses. There you go. She's, should have said if anybody's squeamish, look away really. But it's all closed, so there's no needles that anybody's touching other than the original one. And she's dead chuffed. There's her first one. You can see that gel there. You know, we get quite a lot, and she's injecting it back into the lady. So there's going to be some pictures coming up soon. That's my stepson's scar. That's a post-surgical scar. Do a couple of treatments. Lips.
It's all done in a gym.
It's all done in 45 minutes.
Oh.
Yeah, it's quite straightforward. Put some numbing cream on because it doesn't feel very nice when you have it injected back. But we can also add boosters like hyaluronic acid, which is a moisture binding molecule. Then the CO2, we've sort of looked at that. So fracturing the surface, causing, you know, lots of different treatments we can use that. That's the laser vaginal rejuvenation. So evening out skin tone, So that shows, that's what it looks like when it reacts with the water on skin. So that's obviously a lady's bit. It's twice today you've had ladies' bits and blood. Good old Friday afternoon. But that is one of those dots. So it's very, very tiny. And they heal really quickly. So they will, if that's on your face, it would have a little bit of a scab, it might be a bit uneven for a few days. But generally, you know, look at those. The building work starts straight away. But the human body's amazing. When you give it the tools it needs, and let's just show you that's what it looks like in some of the different shapes as well. That's the original CO2, so that's not what we do anymore. So anybody seen a leaf blower? That's how CO2 used to be. So literally you would shave the top layer. Now as we know, it looks so scared, I'm not going to do it to you. When we're looking at the epidermis, we're trying to protect it, that's not protected. So a lot of people, remember in the 90s, lots of faces like this, because this is a type of scar tissue, it doesn't move as well. So by doing it the way you've seen on those little bit of, by making those small injuries, you protect it so it heals quicker. We've got some brilliant, some really daft video. We've got a patient, she's got bright pink hair, tightly, she's done some songs, she's quite funny, isn't she, Mo? But yeah, things like acne scarring, pores, particularly in the nose area. It's not the #1 treatment I would use for pigmentation on skin, but because some of the particularly darker skins, you've got the risk of either going one way, either preventing pigmentation happening or taking too much off with certain things. So you can actually just graze the surface so that you can break them down layer by layer, so it's a little bit more safer. You know, just reducing wrinkles, big scars. This is one of my post-surgical scars, lady, so she'd had a tummy tuck, down, tuck back in. So we did 3 sessions over a period of 3 months. That's after the second one. It's not brilliant on this screen, but you can see it starting to flatten out a little bit. And then that was at the end. So you can't get rid of the stretch marks, but that's a lot less noticeable. And obviously she's got a bit of pigmentation, so that will come back over time. So there you go. I didn't do a belly button. I don't like belly buttons. I feel a bit funny. I would if she asked. For that one, we have to do a test patch before you come, and that would go through the condom. Just because if we do it and you go, I don't like that, or we get the setting wrong, because you know, 50 years ago, everybody either had 2 brown parents, 2 black parents, 2 white parents. Now, very different. So we might have somebody with a white Irish mum and a Caribbean granddad. See it a lot now. So what we see with pigment, we've got to be careful. We've got to really, so we do a little patch just sort of around the area. So you can see here, we've done 3 different levels. I'm looking at the patient a couple of days later. How does that feel? Is she going to tolerate it? If I do that all over your face, and you're like, I don't like it. I can't stop halfway. So we're sort of balancing it and making a decision jointly. So there's usually a programme of treatments for that. And then in terms of the chemical pills, we're on the home straight, ladies. We're on the home straight. The idea is to either exfoliate or stimulate those cells to communicate better. Lots and lots of different reasons for those, and we'll be demonstrating some of that when we're here on the 21st. So some mild ones that we would use just to maintain some of the more aggressive treatments, and then some of those are a bit more aggressive, and these have to be done in a clinical setting. You shouldn't be doing it. People do them in their home beauty clinic in their garage or mobile clinic. It's just what do you do if something goes wrong? And these, you definitely don't see these are on those 10 years younger programs that make us all feel really bad. Lots and lots of different ways that they work, and again, depending on what's going on with your skin, that full consultation will help us to decide what it is you want to achieve and when. So how long, you know, if you've got a wedding tomorrow, not doing your field today, it's not sensible. So different levels do different things. Nearly there. This poor lady, I did training with her, and she never gave permission for that picture to be shared other than me. It's all over the internet. Somebody's got it off their internal website. But you can't really see it though, she had it was called melasma. Sometimes we get that when we've had babies. Lots and lots of different reasons, and different chemical components will have different jobs. There you go, that's a peel being applied. And then this one's coming out. So, looks scary, but it's not. So, there's different levels. So there's a needle, you can see the little needles in there? And then this one's a superficial one. So I'm going to leave that only because they've been used for demonstration. and they've got needles in. So it's very similar to the needling, but we're introducing heat under the surface. And actually, I thought it would hurt like Billy-O, and we must remember to take that machine back when he's like this weekend. It introduces both heat and damage. So a bit like the CO2 is more on the surface, what this does is it goes in, causes a bit of heat, comes out, so you get that tightening quite quickly. Very little downtime. Again, we'll be demonstrating that. Oh, there you go. What's the boring slide? Quite a short procedure. Feels quite nice. It's a bit like a posh massage. So that shows you there. The needle goes into the depth, and then you stimulate the heat, and it all happens quite quickly. It's like a little stamp. So yeah. For a non-surgical facelift. Can't use it directly over the throat though, because we've got thyroid in there as well, lymph nodes, and you could use something like normal needling for that. It's really good for scars and stretch marks, smokers' lines, eye bags, wrinkles. And we've got those prices are a bit cheaper now. I've changed them. So this, not bad, is it?
Yeah.
How many?
One.
How many children? Or just one? And how long will that last?
The particular type of shear, so she had a slightly different, not like the needling, this one's called bipolar. So if I said to you, everybody, let your fingers, put them in the socket, you'd all go, no. So some forms of radio frequency involve two little poles. So when you do that, you complete the circuit. So that's why we remove. So that causes causes a contraction in the tissue. So if you yeah, well, not so much that, but if you think of collagen being like a helix, like DNA, as you regenerate, little bits start like an elastic band that's not got so much stretch. And when you apply this level of heat, which isn't much, you get this initial ping, but it doesn't build long-term new collagen. Whereas the more aggressive, there is more risk of injuring with more heat, but it gives you, it's all to do with protein. So basically, that would give you longer acting one. This is RF needling. So she's had 3 sessions there. There's a lady in her 60s actually. She's quite slender anyway, but that little bit just wouldn't go. It's a bit of an improvement for that lady. We're not going to get rid of stretch marks. We can't. That ship sailed. There's a 91-year-old. She was over the moon.